This is part 2 of an ASMR where I am reading about globalization to you, and I am at some aspects in this I'm referring to this book, which is called En Skenande Varld, written by Anthony Giddens, and it was published in 2003. So I'm just talking about here some corporations, you know, how they are so enormous in comparison to the capital that even nations are possessing, because as you know that there are also nations that have huge debt deficiency, like they are very heavy with debt, you know, and probably I mean, it's maybe not even possible to pay it back, you know. So why are we as humans and individuals, why are we supporting these corporations instead of smaller local companies and entrepreneurs and products and goods and services, you know? So one of the keys behind that is that, as you know, as our brain is very much influenced by the things that we are seeing by our eyes, you know, we sort of adapting into this Americanized culture, you know, that is through media, you know, is viewing certain forms of lifestyles, like this whole high maintenance lifestyle that is requiring quite a lot of capital, you know, in order to be sustained, you know, where we are sort of consuming a form of lifestyle, you know, that is you know, sort of in the interest of these corporations, because we're buying their products, you know, and their services and so forth. So on a local plane, in this sense, we are sort of adapting another type of culture, you know, that may not be found in the local context in which we have our sort of residence in, you know. And one reason to the Americanization of culture that we are seeing is that we are feeding our brains, you know, just as we are eating food, we are feeding our brains with culture that is not representing the multi-diversity of the people actually living in the United States, but a certain culture aspect that is formulated through the media and expressed to us, delivered through us, you know. And there is actually mentioned in this book about this whole media sort of thing, you know. So for example, I will give you an example from my context currently, you know. So I am in Sweden, you know, and in Sweden they have this form, they have just launched and they have had a form of tax before as well, but a form of public service tax, you know, that is now implied on the income, you know. So every citizen of Sweden have to pay a tax for the media that they are observing, you know. And the media is not a neutral platform where whatever can just comfort. We are very much sort of viewing certain perspectives and angles of certain phenomena that is present in the world, you know. And it's shaping our demand, you know, when we are taking in these visions, you know, as you are observing this, for example, whatever I am wearing and so forth, it is sort of shaping your own demand and your own desire of certain goods and services, you know. And in many cases, as we see today, is that those things are based in the American and even the European kind of culture, you know. And one of the things that has been going on lately is that we are placing an economic form of value on certain cultures. So for example, cultures that in which people who are observing and tending to those culture are earning a small income, those cultures are becoming less relevant and less tended to, because, as I said, they are associated with a lower form of income. And in this form of capitalist system or form of way of thinking, is that we want to attend some culture that is associated with a high income and with a large capital, and that's why so many people are buying these European bags with luxury things, you know, associated to a luxury lifestyle, associated to a high income and a large amount of capital, you know. So that is one of the reasons to that, you know. And a lot of people through these media and example films that holds a certain form of cultural expression is inspired, you know, from them to actually achieve that form of high maintenance lifestyle. And even if high maintenance or not, but just that form of way of dressing and the clothes and stuff. And as people are sort of demanding those products, the market is also going to shape into include those products on a larger scale and sort of exclude other forms of expressions in that might have another form of culture background, you know. So that means that a lot of people across the world is adapting an American or a European related form of culture and fashion trends or whatever, you know, because it sort of has some form of value and it's sort of something that they have observed through these forms of media that is expressed to them, you know. And it's a large, because it's connected, you know, to this money that is found in these industrial forms of, or or industrial forms of countries, because that has also sort of, you know, moved on. Let's see what else I have here. But one of the sides of these things, that these cultures, you know, the West European and North American, a lot of the things that you see in the media, that form of lifestyle, the high maintenance lifestyle, is actually coming in at an expense, you know, and that expense is those who are at the bottom of this form of pyramid system, you know. They're paying the price for that form of lifestyle, you know. And I mean, for us who are like born into this form of concept of lifestyle and so forth, we don't really see it from the outside perspective, because we haven't really been placed under the circumstances of being at the expense, you know, paying for that form of lifestyle, you know. But so it's much harder for someone who is raised in the context of having that form of capital to actually understand the types of situations that might be imposed on those who have to pay for these types of lifestyles, you know, and like fast fashion and you know, big cars or whatever, you know, that might involve. But you know, at the core, and this is something I think we have to understand, because you cannot place, cultures are not to be viewed as an asset that can be, you know, sort of liquidated into money, because money itself is only a form of exchange mean. It is this capitalistic financial system that we have that has shaped money into being some form of even consider asset, you know. And this whole demand for capital and like constant money flow and so forth. But money itself is only a form of exchange that is supposed to be exchanged in the, you know, present of products and services that are currently on the market or is going to be on the market in the near future. There is absolutely nothing else that money as a piece of paper or as a balance on some form of account is comparable in the sense of a form of culture or other form of asset, you know. But we have sort of misunderstood that. A lot of people have misunderstood this, and I think that if you are viewing culture as a form of asset and trying to buy into certain cultures, you know, for example, into the American culture or the European culture, by buying those goods and services that are found in those contexts and spread through media, I would say that don't value those things in the amount of money, because money as a mean is only a form of exchange. So the real assets are not really, you know, it's not really money itself. So you can read on this topic. I have in a previous video here sort of recommend a book on this whole topic of alternatives to money, you know, and the sort of financial system that we have now, because we have to think about currently the money that we have, this capitalistic financial system, it is measured against the value of American dollars, and American dollars as it is currently is used as a political tool in order to establish and achieve certain political interests, and those political interests are often serving the interest of huge corporations that are found and based in the American context. So there you have it. I mean, we cannot just think that everything in the world is comparable to an American dollar, and that's why I want to raise this awareness of alternative forms of exchange means, and I have recommended some book on that, and I definitely recommend you to sort of expand your awareness on that topic, you know. So let's see. And one of the problems also that we see today, the currencies and stuff that are unwanted on the market, you know, they are sort of being removed when they are unwanted, because they are compared to the American dollar, and because of that reason they are able to be manipulated and expelled from the current financial global system that we have, you know. So economic growth is not a solution for every single human across the planet, because who is going to wear 1,000 pair of shoes in a week, you know? I'm just saying, I have 2 feet, I don't need 1,000 pair of shoes, you know? So the Americanized culture that is being exported globally is creating a market demand for these products, you know? And they are produced by these humongous corporations, you know, that are residing in the American financial system center, you know. So yeah. And also, you know, we have this form of expertise, you know, the expertise that is being exported into low-income countries, you know, from West Europe and America, North America, and those things are often under the ban, you know, like under this flag of creating more economic growth and to sort of increase the welfare of the people living in those less advantaged or currently advantaged forms of locations, you know. But what you have to understand in this sense, you know, is that these expertise systems, you know, the expertise system, I mean, I'm also a student, you know, but every single thing that we learn as a form of knowledge currently in this form of science, it is built up on the episteme, and that episteme is formulated by West Europe and the North American, you know. So we are living in these forms of scientific form of expertise things, you know, and sometimes there are shifts even in science. There are big paradigm, I don't know how to say, but like big shifts that just, you know, sort of erase an entire science, and something else comes up when, depending on what happens, you know. So we have to understand that the knowledge that is underlying, because everything is information in the society. I mean, we don't have angels that we can see with visible eyes circulating around the planet, but we have satellites, and those are full with information. Everything in the society, that every single institution, legal system or whatever, they are underlying with a form of set of knowledge. And in most cases, that form of set of knowledge is sort of framed from West Europe and North America, you know. So the people who are living in some place, let's say in southern part of the world, and adapting that knowledge into their society and starting to build institutions based on that knowledge, they are just adapting something that is not necessarily the truth, because if you believe blindly in science, it's equally to believe blindly in a form of religion without knowing the theology and the practices and the rituals and stuff, you know. like science and knowledge, to really be equal in that sense, you know, you should actually have opportunities to sort of frame that knowledge that should be underlying the institution, because otherwise it's just a form of domination tool, you know, to really be enforced by some form of set of knowledge and set up an institution that is underlying with that form of set of enforced knowledge, you know. That's not equality at all. So also this form of technology, rapid innovation movement, you know, it has actually allowed for huge capital flows, you know, to be able to cross across, able to cross across the entire world, you know. And this is also, you know, as I said about local currencies are being expelled because of there is certain actors, you know, who are operating in this financial market, and they have the means, you know, they have the tools, methods, you know, and the capital to actually influence the market, you know, and so forth, like the financial capital flows and whatever. And at sometimes that is sort of also creating big problems in the local markets, you know, and it sort of depends on what form of aim and sort of you know, interest the actors that are playing in this game is having, you know. So we are in the game, you know, but we are not really setting the rules. I mean, not either playing the game, you know, we are just like parts that are in the game, you know. So let's see what else. Also, like when it comes to power, you know, power today is very diffused across different forms. First of all, there are different forms of power, you know, and also power itself, it's not like a solid thing that someone is holding and, you know, possessing. It is very much diffused into this form of informational systems that we have, and diffused into this form of organizations that we have, and institutions and legal systems and whatever, you know. That is power in everything, you know. And who is the power really like serving, you know, in these senses, you know. So let's see what else I had here. So yeah. So to be able to raise above religion, you know, and turn other people's attention away from religion, certain religions, you know. That first of all is sort of, if there is, you know, for those who actually believe, it actually is a form of turning their attention away from God, you know, and turning their attention into these form of capital and money and certain cultures that are not created in the sense that they have the influence and presence and understanding and belief in God, you know. So that is a form of, you know, you can either say that it's a trap, or you can say that, you know, it's science has not yet explained afterlife, and that's why people also are in the West Europe and North American setting are consuming religion that to actually acquire this form of afterlife security, you know. And also we have the democracy, you know. So this book is also explaining democracy, because a part of the globalization movement is this talk about spreading democracy across the world. And democracy as its sort of core fundamental principle is actually, you know, sort of allow for people to have different values and opinions or whatever, you know. But in the European, West European context, where we have the parliamentary democracy, you know, this is not really allowing for freedom fully, because you are allowed freedom within the system that has been enforced around you, and you have to support the system in order to you know, live within it, and that is the freedom that you have now. So not really freedom of values and cultures and whatever, you know, not even the freedom of exchange system. And if we had a freedom of exchange system and not were depending on the American dollar, we would actually be quite quite wealthy, you know, we would actually be able to earn money here. So yeah, so if this globalization really was supporting everyone's interest, then maybe the 1/5 of the poorest population of the world, poorest part of the world, you know, there has actually been a drop from 2.3% down to 1.4% in their income comparison to, you know, what they actually own for sort of income in comparison to the rest of the world. So it's quite a lot, you know, percentage of the world population that doesn't even have, you know, 25% of the actual income that is generated in the world today, you know. And this drop was between 1989 to 1998, you know. And I'm going to actually make a part 3 out of this because I want to highlight women in this, you know.